Live from the apocalypse, I am Glenn Doc Dano. Here representing Free Music Empire and my assistant coach, Tyron Rollins, K. Diggy, is here. This is a very special episode, just like the 80s TV shows when they had very special episodes. And for me, I get excited about this stuff. You know, I'm never more excited than when we are talking about someone who, a really talented group of people who fly under the radar, right? And it's really interesting. It's a really interesting sound. Spanish Ran is the producer that we kind of studied up on the 2020 and 2019 run that he's on. And he has a group of people he associates with. Tree Mason, Al-Doe, Bloo, Heist Life. I mean, there's all kinds of people. These are Puerto Rican gentlemen from the Bronx. They're all Puerto Rican gentlemen from the Bronx, and they have a very specific sound. And there's a high concept that my mom hit me with that blew my mind. I can't wait to share that with you. So that's the itinerary here. How was your venturing into the Spanish Ran? Was it rewarding?
Yeah, no, I mean, in general, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, definitely the production. I mean, lyrically there were some moments, but the production was all around solid for all of the projects that we listened to for tonight's show.
There's a very specific. We should talk about this and how the Spanish Ran dynamic fits into now. It's very smart. It's what do you think it sounds like? What do you think of the characteristics of it?
I mean, it definitely sounds like that underground MF Doom sound. I don't know if that was early 90s, but maybe mid to late 90s. Like, you can tell that he was very referential to that era, to that sound.
Yep.
And you know, and particularly like how he, yeah, I mean, it was almost like it was a homage to that period.
I mean, I've got more on that, but let's prove your point here and do some visuals, okay? All right. Are you seeing my screen?
Nope, it's coming. It's loading up now.
All right, we're loading. We're loading.
Yep, I see it.
So, to the left is the cover of MF Doom's Food album. To the right is MF Bloo.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
The first album of the year from Bloo and Spanish Ran. And so it's more than a light homage. It's something very interesting that there's a concept. Well, and let me get it before I get into that. Let me show you the second cover, by the way. That was the first album they made this year, MF Bloo. The second one is called Danger Blue. Look at that cover.
Yeah, I loved the covers.
So like you got like Welcome to the Bronx, you've got Godzilla. I mean, MF Doom is in the vehicle with, do you know who this character is?
No.
That's Quasimodo. That's the character that Madlib has. He's on
He
he's on
looked
the
because it
cover.
looked familiar.
Yeah, he's on the cover of the bandana and all that. So, but it's interesting because you have MF Doom, and you have pretty clearly that is Blue, right? Because that's
Yep.
he's wearing the same Magneto mask. He's wearing blue. He's very high. Look at the eyes.
It's attention to detail, man. You know.
Dude, yeah, dude. So it's important. That stuff is important. It leads me to what my mom blew my mind with. Okay, my
Okay.
mom was a psychologist for the state of Maine my whole life. Just retired. Child development was her specialty. She helped children in trouble. We're talking about music, and we stumbled upon this conversation of like, how much new do you want your music to be, right? Like,
Hmm.
and how much can you get away with? And she said, in childcare, there is a concept called optical discrepancy. Optimal discrepancy. Sorry.
Okay.
Um, an optimal discrepancy is about the way she puts it. She says, when you put a baby in a crib, you never put the New York Times over it.
Wait. When you put a baby in a crib, you never put the New York Times over it?
Nobody ever like just tapes the New York Times over the kid and goes, I hope they get this, right?
Oh,
What
oh okay.
what she's saying is it's always a mobile, which is three solid colors moving slowly, predictably, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that the kid can grasp it, can understand it, it not completely, right? It's a baby, but it grasp it enough to hold its attention.
Okay.
The
Right, because
problem
it can establish pattern making ability.
Yeah, the
Because
problem with just putting like Dickens' Hard Times over it is that the kid, that means nothing to the kid. It just has no context.
I'm just thinking of like the physical image. I'm thinking of like you're wrapping a baby up in the New York Times. I'm like, okay,
No, no, no,
okay,
no. Above the baby in the crib. That's what we're talking about. So,
okay,
um, optimal discrepancy. So basically, you make it different enough that the kid has to adjust to it and learn.
mm-hmm.
But it's never 100% different, right?
I see. Okay,
It's never 100% different because the kid would tune out.
right. Because
Utter
they couldn't comprehend it. They wouldn't be able to comprehend it.
utter confusion is
Right,
not what most of us like.
right.
I mean, I'm sure you can find this in your own life watching movies, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
where a movie, let's say, was 70% confusing, but the rest of it had you gripped, right?
Right,
And or another movie was just totally confusing, and you were just like, I'm shutting this shit off. I don't know what the hell's going
right.
on. Optimal discrepancy, and so the for hip hop heads, we recognize that is food, right? And food is a very important album for underground people.
Mm-hmm.
MF Doom was important. So, but it's slightly different, right? It's
Mm.
slightly different and in meaningful ways. Uh, do you know the MF Doom backstory?
Uh, Pieces of it.
His backstory is part of the reason he is so important. He is lyrically one of the best to ever do it, but he's also got an incredible story, right? Him and his brother, was it Kevlov X? I mean, I don't. I wish I had all this stuff as dedicated as other people. Read the Nate Patriot book, but him and his brother were in a group together called KMD.
Okay.
Uh, First album came out. It's pretty good. It's part of that early '90s mix. I believe he worked with DJ Prince Paul, who was doing the De La stuff at the time. Like he was in the mix, that New York mix. His brother gets murdered. uh, and it really sets him down. And they had just finished their second album called Black Bastards. He finally gets it out. Works really hard, gets it released. Black Bastards has a cover that is like the Sambo character getting lynched.
Oh, wow.
It's a very political album. It's a very hostile album about race in America, justifiably so, to be quite honest. Anytime black people release a hostile album about race in America, you just have to thumbs up that thing and say, I understand. They at the time, even black critics were like rejecting this based on the cover and saying, hey, this is going to set black people back 50 years. This is terrible. And no one asked his opinion, but he was out there screaming, no, I'm killing the Sambo character.
Yeah, that's my interpretation.
Racism, like stereotypes, this music is going to dead that. Like, he was trying for that. I think nowadays people would be a little more relaxed about it. Those were tense times. There would at least be discussion about it on both sides of the thing. Sure. But the album flops. His brother's dead. He just fades into a recessive kind of. He just fades away, and he comes back. I don't know whether it was 6 years, 5 years. It was a while, and he comes back doing open mics in a Dr. Doom mask. Just rapping, having made his own beats, with a Dr. Doom mask, never showing his face. And when he starts putting out music, there's just all kinds of Dr. Doom samples and all kinds of interesting imagery, Dr. Doom related imagery, right? And to go fake psychology here for a moment, I couldn't help but over analyze the cover, right? Like I couldn't help but look at Danger MF Blue, and so the reason, given the backstory, I think the reason that he identifies with Dr. Doom is because Dr. Doom focuses on his craft to suppress the scars he has. Dr. Doom is known as the smartest person in the Marvel universe.
Okay.
The better inventor than Tony Stark. He's a better scientist than Tony Stark. But he's so messed up, right? In terms of the scarring, the face, and like his life, the shit that he hasn't dealt with psychologically, that he suppresses that and focuses on being a mastermind, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what he did, right? Like he pushed that down and focused on the craft of his music. A lot of it doesn't ever touch on what he's been through.
Wow.
It's just the craft. Now, in terms of Blue, this mask is not a Doom mask. Do you recognize what that is?
That's Magneto from the X-Men.
That's a Magneto mask. And I think it's a Magneto mask because Blue, lyrically, Blue has some interesting stuff. And
Right.
a lot of it to me has to do with being a good dude, because Magneto is a good dude. Doctor Doom is not, right? Like, there are times when Magneto has like led the X-Men, teamed with the X-Men. He's a good dude with anger problems that keep boiling up.
Huh.
And it's PTSD from his like having
You,
been the Nazi experience.
right, through the Holocaust.
Yeah. So that anger always stays with him, right? Uh, and I think that's a big part of Blue and the lyrics that Blue um, exhibits. I I pulled some of them, man. It's the one that's the key. I think is Diallo from Danger Doom.
Oh, Danger Blue?
Danger Blue, you got it. Danger Blue.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
says, "I'm just a beast with virtue." He raps a few more lines and he says, show aggression more than happiness." And he takes a beat. Show aggression more than happiness. Takes a beat. Says shouldn't be the case.
Mm.
I mean, he has these kind of incredible moments um, where he diagnoses himself or the world in a way that is totally unique.
Right.
Um, the Never a Time, which is an incredible single and great video. We ain't impressed, just suppressed, so survival's on the brain.
Mm.
Some real Magneto shit, dude. Give praise when praise due, ain't a drop of hate in me. Look what Pop's done, made in me. Integrity. Victor Creed off MF Blue. He has these lines all through, peppered through. So many codes in the street, yet we never had rules on luck. Um, there's just Magneto personality traits. I remember there's a line where he says, um, "Beat my chest. You better start repping me before I make my come up. You better start repping me
Yeah.
before I come all the way up." Like, and there's just that anger in
Yeah.
him, but like he's trying to be good. He's trying to be a good dude.
Yeah. And I did notice that, like, I mean, there is a sense of frustration running through some of his lyrics, but what I took away from it lyrically was optimism. I took like a sense of optimism away from him.
I think, I mean, maybe this is why I connect with Blue and his lyrics, because I'm a dick, but I'm trying to be nice, right? I'm always taking steps to be nice and not be a dick. But it's in there.
Yeah.
It wants to, you know, to take over. And I think he has some of that stuff where he's talking about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, but sometimes it's funny, man. Sometimes it's a funny line that comes out of nowhere. He said on Gracias, which is one of my favorite projects that they did together. Um, he said, um, like, said, you know, Puerto Rican from the Bronx, but my Spanish is trash. And it was just like, it's just, he's very cool. He sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, he has a very like together flow, like, um, but yeah, there's real vengeance in it. What was
Yeah.
the song on MF Blue? Because there's so many good ones, but
Yeah.
maybe it's on the follow up.
And I mean, I think the production, Spanish Rand's production, does a good job of what I'll say is kind of balancing it out, because I mean, because the production is so ornate and so I don't want to call it upbeat, but there's a sense of soul to Spanish Rand's production. You
Oh,
know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
yeah, totally. But it's different. It is a different kind of soul, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what's really cool about it. But um,
Now, when you say different kind, what do you mean?
I'll tell you because I've been thinking
Okay.
about this a lot. I think what I love about the Spanish Rand sound, and I'm gonna have to run this by you to see if it tracks. Um, I think it's based on chimes and bells.
Huh.
It, the Spanish Rand sound, if you listen to it, like the reverberating sound of a chime is kind of a big part of of his music. And even when it's not a chime, it's kind of treated like that. Like so when he uses like a bell type sound, he it's not like it's like
Mhm.
it's a ding and then like and then another ding and then like it comes together as that beat.
Right. Wow. Did you
But
notice that on the first time you listened, or did you have to listen a couple times
it
before?
it was a couple times. It was a couple times, but like once it stuck, it just stuck. And so when sometimes like when it's based
Huh.
around a violin sound, the same blueprint is in effect. He's not going to kill you with it, right? You're going to be able to hear every sharp spike of that violin, and they're going to come together and become, this group.
Right.
So there's a real like notes are important in the world of Spanish rant.
Wow. I didn't even notice that, but I'm guessing it's probably there. I mean, it's so subtle. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna, like, the word I was gonna use was ornate for his production. I mean, and maybe subconsciously that's what I picked up on, that the bells. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of soul to his production, which really helps balance out uh more, particularly with Blue. I'm not sure about some of the other rappers he'd worked with, but with Blue, like the chemistry that he has with Blue is, I mean, they both feed off of each other's strong points.
Yeah, I mean it's that because that the notes and the chiming that comes out of that music is incredibly thought provoking for
Mm,
Blue. It always sparks Blue, and he adapts to it really well.
mm-hmm.
Did you hear "Ain't No Love"?
Which one? Which project was that off of?
MF Blue.
Ain't No Love. Wait, let me get my track listing out. I listen to all of them, but I don't know the.
Because he actually on the hook of "Ain't No Love," he kind of slows down to be at the speed of the song, and he goes,
Yes.
"Ain't no love, ain't no love."
And is that the one where he actually sings, like he sings the sample?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that was a remarkable. Okay, I
it's a
remember that song.
trance,
That
right?
was the
Like
one.
it's a trance. It's
Yeah,
Spanish
that was
man is
kind of remarkable because I've never heard that on a song where, like, because the sample was going in the background throughout the whole song, and then he's down and he starts singing the sample as well. So they became one. I mean,
and
that was
I
a
don't mean
musically interesting
I
moment to
don't
me.
mean to say that like Spanish Rand is always using chimes and bells. Like that is not the case. But
Mm,
I think he is using these instruments the way you would think to use that. Like if you hear it Ain't No Love, I think behind the sample is this very light piano, right? Doo doo, doo doo, doo doo. And it's just very lightly done. It's very beautiful. Um, if you're looking for evidence of this, now there's a Stephanie Tanner song. I don't know if you,
Yep.
yeah.
On Danger Blue, yes.
If you put on the Stephanie Tanner song and don't listen to any of the shit from the audio clips, and you just listen to the instrumentals, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Spanish Ran is something else, dude.
Now, what is his backstory? Do you know his backstory?
Puerto Rican dude from the Bronx, man. It's incredible. These guys are geniuses. The thing is, that musically, yes, the Doom and Madlib are mentioned, but Doom and Madlib are very sample heavy.
Yes.
I don't think of Spanish Ran's sound as sample heavy. There's samples, but I mean, it's not like Madlib, man.
Oh, right. I mean, it's in the style of a Madlib
Totally.
or
It
Meth
invokes the
Doom album.
texture of that underground music, but really, it's almost like Soundwave from TDE and Derringer came together. But
Wow.
so those two come together, but you also have this Latinx heritage of music that is into there. You can feel there's like there's wind instruments that just sail in, and it's you understand it if you've listened to salsa music or if you've listened to Latin music, and it's different. Optimal discrepancy. It's different.
Right. Huh. Now, what was it about your mother? Like the conversation that you had with your mother, and optimal discrepancy. What was it? What was it that struck a chord with you in regards to
from that concept?
Yeah, in regards to like Spanish Ran.
Just that every musician kind of wrestles with that.
What?
Optimal discrepancy of like growing each project, but not abandoning what you learned along the way. Because me and my mom talked about it. I was like, if you are guaranteeing me this next album 100% different from the album I gave you last time, I'm not that excited.
Right.
And it's not because I'm like, I want you to release the same album. So you're not carrying over any of the skills you learned from the last album that I loved.
Ooh.
What? So you're going a whole different direction you've never done, and I'm supposed to believe that that's going to work. Like, so optimal discrepancy, right? To build, we talked about the sculptor, right? Of just someone who crafts and keeps crafting.
Right.
That's that's Mob Deep, right? Like the albums were different from one another, but you were never confused and were like, what is this new direction? You know what I mean? Like it was always growing within their strengths.
Yeah, and I mean, I think hip is a genre that's more it's more based on incrementalism. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is you take from the past and you tweak it, and then you tweak it, and then you keep tweaking, and eventually you wind up with something new. But it's always based. What is happening now is always based on something that's happened in the past, in some form.
Yep.
I mean, and that's how hip hop has evolved.
Right. So that's a good point. That because hip hop incorporates its past constantly, it learns rather than abandons.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was like John Stuart Mills or somebody was talking about this, that like you just can't abandon the past.
Right.
If you abandon the past and start over, you start with nothing.
Right.
You have to start with the lessons you've learned. So
Yep.
that's important. Let's go over the list of stuff. The pure bulk. I don't think people understand the pure bulk yet.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
So from what I've seen, he's released 5, or he's been involved. Spanish Ran's been involved with 5 albums this year.
And if you include 2019,
Okay.
he has 2 albums of Tree Mason, WIP, and Carhartt Champions. He has wait, 4 EPs and a mixtape with Al-Doe, the 3 Donna Blanca mixtapes and Michelin Stars, and the White Tape, which is the best of their collaborations. 2 full-length albums with Bloo. And I think Heist Life was 2019 as well. It's a lot to take in, and they're all people that are consistent with this makeup. You know, this is not some kind of like all-star team roster.
No.
He's like, I grabbed this dude from Atlanta who's hot. No, these are all Bronx dudes. Same
Right.
accent, same attitude, man.
Right, but I would say the spectrum, like they're all from the same tree, but or no, I should say they're all from the same branch, but they're different. Because I could like Blue was like, because there was like a level of optimism in his voice. Like I could stomach Blue. Blue was good, but Al-Doe was just something I could not. He was like a little bit too harsh for me, a little bit strong for me.
I was thinking about that with Al-Doe. Now, the crazy part, when Al-Doe started breaking big again off these things, I remember thinking, I remember this guy. He's actually on one of my favorite mixtapes ever, which is Smoke Dizz's KONY. He's on a track with Nim Low, and like, so there was like a real grimy New York coke rap thing. And he was kind of too grim for that stuff.
Wow.
He released a really good mixtape in 2012. I can't remember the title of it. Great cover, and it was hardcore, dude. It was hardcore. And I thought of him as somebody who would destroy your feature. Just kill it for 16 bars. But you really couldn't hang with a full project of it.
Yeah, it's very.
It's ferocious.
Yes, very, very, very ferocious. Just very intense. In a way, like no, I mean I've heard some intense rappers, but the intensity, I don't know what it was about Al-Doe, but the intensity of his rapping was just. I mean I really couldn't stomach it.
I'm fascinated with the Al-Doe stuff is that a lot of it, like 2020 has so much hip hop introspection. There's so many people bleeding all over the beats, Al-Doe has very practical concerns. If you look up the video for SWV, I don't know. It's off the White Tape. There's a video where it's just him, like getting a body out of his trunk, like and trying to bury it, like.
My gosh.
Garbage bag, like he's trying to get rid of it, burying it. That's this dude. That's his music, right? Like, his concerns are very practical. Like, it's snitches are gonna turn on me. The police are coming after me.
Yeah.
but you know, and when it gets introspective, it gets really weird. Remember that? I don't know if you heard that song. What would Jesus do with a brick in his hand?
That, yeah, a brick in his face. That was yeah, I couldn't get through that song. That was that
That
song.
is that is the Panda's favorite song. The Panda loves that song. What would Jesus do with a brick in his hand?
That was the most uncomfortable musically I felt this year. Like that was just.
That's awesome. Shout out to Al-Doe. Still got it. You still got your fastball, dude. Um, that is awesome. Yeah, no, he's relentless, man. And I was listening to podcasts. They were talking about it's Call Out Culture podcast. They were talking about the different personality traits of boroughs in rap. And they said Curly Guys said Bronx dudes got a chip on their shoulder. Like
Yeah.
Bronx dudes, it's tough. And this is that music. This is that music. It is tough. It is aggressive. Um, but it's Spanish Rants is beautiful, and because it's so beautiful and spooky, the music is even more uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because like the chemistry between Bloo and Spanish Rant have a different type of chemistry than uh Al-Doe and Spanish Rant.
But
Like,
I love when they're all together. There's a song called
yes,
St.
yeah.
Peter on
St. Peter's my favorite song of all the projects I listened to.
what a great
St. Peter was my favorite song.
great song. It feels like this is gonna be a ridiculous comparison. It's fine. Humor me. Blue, Al-Doe, Spanish Rant together on these songs kind of has that vibe of like Scorsese, um, De Niro, and Pesci on screen together, or whatever, or
You,
making movies
you,
together. Like he
uh,
is Aldo is that Pesci character.
yeah, I can see that. And Pesci works when you have someone to contrast him with. You know
Right.
what I mean? When you have like Pesci by himself can be very intense, but when you have him in another scene with De Niro, and you can see them working together and see them working off of each other, then like it's just magic. So I think for St. Peter, I mean, as I said, St. Peter's of all five projects that I listened to, St. Peter's was my favorite song on all of them. And I think it was because, like the two together, Al-Doe and Bloo together, like they have a chemistry where they're able to balance each other out. Even
Yep.
so they work together. I'd be interested to hear a joint project of, I guess, all three of them together.
I mean, and the thing is, like they've really been putting out a lot of stuff and keeping people energized and getting their name up. The most exciting thing to me is they're not done growing.
Mm,
Like this is the establishment of their character,
right.
but they can grow like to other levels with this. Like I really believe that.
Right.
And I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
I think the reason why Blue is the De Niro in that situation, De Niro in a gangster movie could like go up to like a civilian businessman or cop and talk them into loving him with his charm, right?
Right.
But he was also just as deadly as everybody else.
Yep.
And that's the sense you get from Blue. That Blue isn't somebody to fuck with, that
Yeah.
he come down on you like 75% as hard as Aldo.
Mm,
And that then on top of that, he's just slick. Slick as the day is born.
yeah.
That's not an expression.
And Spanish Rant, as I said, his production really does it. It does a great job of, I wouldn't say softening that message up, but it does. and not even masking it has an effect on the production because it's so ornate, has like an effect on the way we hear what Bloo is actually saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I feel like I could really stomach him. I really connected with him because, you know, he's a optimistic type of person. But you know, that could be because of his chemistry with Spanish Ran and the production, like, and how that kind of masks how the darkness of what he's saying.
I think he masks the darkness in what he's saying. And part of being slick is, as your narrator, he gives you what he wants you to know. Like all these guys, Tree Mason, Al-Doe, Bloo, what I noticed most about the lyrics, my number one takeaway, these guys got walls up, bro. They got walls up. Like even hard dudes from like Compton or whatever, like they're gonna give you specifics. They're gonna be like, you know, this shit happened over here, and this shit happened, and my boy died, and all that. They don't really do that, man. They don't really get deep. They don't really let you know how sad they are, or why they're sad, or what who they miss. You know what I mean? They don't have. There's walls up, man. They don't do that.
Right. Oh.
Wow. Like, you know, it's different. It's different.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And it's familiar to me because I've been watching a lot of Desus and Mero. And Desus and Mero will be like, yeah, you get shot. It's not that bad. Everybody gets shot where we're from. Like, it's okay. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to die right off. Like, you know, so it's very, you know, just talking about very serious things in very loose ways, you know?
Yeah.
And that is how a lot of that works. Like, Bloo can do that. He can switch from jokes to brags to relationship stuff and put something really heavy in the middle of it. And it'll take you a few listens to find it.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there was a song called Satchmo.
Okay.
He said, just remember the antidote is always in the poison. F your support, no need to be poised. And there's a lot in between that line, right? There's a lot like that he's implying but not saying.
Right.
And I remember hearing was a great comic book writer, who's also a great mystery writer named Greg Rucka. And he was talking on a podcast about Raymond Chandler. I never really liked Raymond Chandler's stuff. And the reason I don't like it is the reason he does. So he said Raymond Chandler never really got emotional with his main characters, with his detectives. They were wisecracking. They were ahead of the mystery. But there's these pregnant moments where you know the sadness should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it lives there. And like for Chandler fans, they hunt it down. They're like, oh, that's the fucking, you know what I mean? When
Right.
he's at his lowest. So it's that's kind of how this music is.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you read it, that's when it hit me. Listening to it, like I couldn't pick up, you know, the darkness or the sadness. But when you read it, and I didn't have the production or I didn't have his delivery. Like I caught it. I started to understand what you were saying a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, Diallo is probably my favorite lyrical moment. Like when you talk to me about lyrical moments during 2020, show aggression more than happiness, pause, shouldn't be the case. That sticks with me. that's calling yourself out in the middle of your record.
Yeah, I mean that's a loaded. I mean that's a very loaded line, because anytime someone says should, that's when you lean in closer. Like, what do you mean shouldn't? I mean that can be interpreted in multiple ways.
How many rappers would have made that line the whole song? They would have basically said, "This is my song about my anger issues," you know, and they would have gotten all into it. That's not criticizing them. Would have been perfectly valid.
Right.
You know, like I said, for Blue, you have to find those cracks.
Wow.
When you do, it's pretty incredible. Tree Mason, I don't have a lot of love for Tree Mason. He's okay. He's okay.
Yeah, I mean he was a little bit crass for me in a way that Al-Doe wasn't. Like Al-Doe, like that's why I was saying that, like I view them on like a spectrum. Like like the opposites of the spectrum are Blue and Al-Doe.
Right.
And Tree Mason is kind of somewhere, he's somewhere leaning more towards Al-Doe, but a little bit more crass and not quite as dark.
If it was like a hockey team,
Mm-hmm.
Blue is the captain.
Mm-hmm.
Al-Doe is the goalie,
Mm-hmm.
and Tree Mason is like a defenseman.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Tree Mason feels like somebody coming off the bench, and that's just where I hear him now, having heard these projects.
Yeah.
You know, everybody grows, everybody gets better. I have no idea what it'll be next album.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I am fully hooked in to Blue. I mean, having listened to this so many times, I'm fully hooked into Blue. And really, it's Danger Doom that did it. Danger Blue, sorry.
Then,
Danger Blue, I think, is significantly better than MF Blue.
I'd agree.
And MF Blue is the one everyone loved.
Yeah.
Came out earlier this year. Everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
It came out April 16th, and then Danger Blue came out September 18th.
Yep.
So that's a 5-month difference between the two.
Yeah. No, and I think it's fabulous. And Never at Time is incredible. And yeah, the St. Peter's half
I like
moon Caesar,
Green Metro Card. Really liked. Enjoyed.
Yallo, Hasbro's. There's different speeds on Danger Blue,
Yeah.
whereas the MF Blue's kind of a groove. It kind of has that old school Doom speed. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for them to both adapt.
Yeah.
You know, and create different kinds of songs. Um, but yeah, that's my excitement, man.
Yeah. I agree.
So the doing here today's a big day for me, buddy. It's a big day. It's me moving away. I'm officially Tidal now.
You're on Tidal.
Bang.
What caused you to pull the trigger on Tidal?
I mean, I was doing research, and this is months ago, months and months and months ago. I was doing research, and for the first time, I was face to face with the numbers of how much per stream everybody pays. I was shocked. On the website, the Tidal website, they said that Nipsey Hussle did a measurement. Like he released the numbers of like for every million streams of a song, how much did Spotify pay? How much did Amazon pay? How much did everybody pay? I can't remember whether it was like 4 times more or 6 times more. But like Tidal paid either 4 or 6 times more than Amazon.
Wow.
So there's been people who have been talking about Jay and his business practices, and he was furloughing people during COVID. That's fine. I don't need Jay to be the perfect honorable businessman, right? But I will tell you
He's a
this.
billionaire. I mean,
I will tell you this. Tidal pays, and I've seen the numbers, a lot more than every other service for these streams to the artists who did the work.
right.
Second thing, follow it. Follow it the next time an innocent black person gets hemmed up. See how much Tidal gives.
Wow.
For legal fees, for funeral costs. Not only did they free Meek, they made a documentary about it so that people could understand what happened to Meek. Like, it's different. Spotify's not doing that.
I mean, Jay's a very thoughtful dude. So I wouldn't expect anything less of Tidal.
I mean, and it's beyond Jay, and there's a whole bunch of people there doing that stuff, but that company has a history of those two things, which mean a lot to me. So
Yeah.
I'm rolling with that. And it's better. It's better. It's user friendly. It's 100% about music, right? Amazon is, shipping all kinds of shit, right? Like, that's my kid's getting his toys through this shit. Like, they have a music service that's basically like, yeah, you need music, here's music.
Yeah.
Tidal has a music service that's like, would you like to know Kyle Craft's 5 albums that shaped his life? And I'm like, yeah, that's fucking cool. Like, would you like to see freestyle? Yes, I would. That's cool.
Have you noticed? I've heard that there's like a difference in sound quality as well. Do you think the sound quality of Tidal is better than Amazon?
I haven't. I need to study more to know for sure and try different things on it and all that. But I mean, it was so much easier to deal with. The app is so much easier to deal with. The functionality of it is so much easier to deal with. And as an Amazon customer, there were times where I couldn't listen to an album because the artist didn't want to release it to Amazon because Amazon wouldn't pay him anything.
Wow.
But there are some artists, as an example, Mac Hami. Mac Hami is kind of a mysterious New York figure, but he released his last album exclusively through Tidal.
Wow.
Whenever you click on that artist's site and it says where they're on, Tidal's always a place they're on because they get paid more.
Wow. Okay.
More likely for them to be on it. So I'm going to have a better selection of the stuff that I like. So yeah, that's me. I'm very happy about that. Trying to hold myself accountable as a consumer.
Yeah.
Make that right. So let me see here. Oh yeah. Did you get a chance to read the breakdown of the essentialism stuff on the Free Music Empire?
No. Tell me.
It was cool.
Because you just posted it. You posted it a couple days ago, right?
Monday or Tuesday, something like that.
Okay.
No, the idea is that rap music from the era I grew up in, Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, everything wasn't segmented into, this is the sad song about my mom, this is the club banger, this is my posse cut. It was that really starts with like albums like Me Against the World, Tupac. But before that, every album kind of had everything in it.
Okay.
It was mixed together. Uh,
Huh.
and they would brag, they would talk about the kids, they would talk about the future, they would talk about Reaganomics, but it was just a mixture. It was all a mixture. And I'm calling that
Now,
essential.
when you say it was a mixture, as in like it wasn't a deliberate mixture, or like it was an organic mixture uh as opposed to like a calculated mixture? Like what do you mean?
The let me try and pull the so the two albums are Griff and Scorsese Midnight Express, uh, which is great, punchy, short, fun deal, and Hijinks by Googie and Henry Canyons. Uh, those are two, and yeah, you should really check it. I think it's a really well written piece. The last paragraph kind of defines what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Uh, and it says Wikipedia defines essentialism as the view that every entity has a set of attributes that are necessary to its identity and function. And it's a recipe with a basic identity made 1,000 ways by generations of diverse groups within the same goal to make dope music.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're talking about here, that it was that you would just rap and you would get to everything, right? You would talk about, you know, whatever family stuff you had to get off your chest, or your neighborhood, or national political stuff, that it would all be in there mixed. If you listen to any of the Rakim albums, that's how it was. If you listen to, you
Well,
know,
I mean, I think like hip hop and rap took a turn for commercialism in probably the late not the late night, like the early 90s.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's when labels started to see like, look, there's a lot of money to be made in hip hop and rap, or I should say rap particular. There's a lot of money to be made if we can market it correctly and focus provide focus in terms of the product. We can make a lot of money. So
Yeah,
I feel like that kind of seeps into rap and in the music and the albums of the starting in the early 90s.
yes, they so the entire 80s, like the industry kind of ignored rap. Like it was just like, yeah, you guys.
Right.
Um, but you couldn't ignore rap after the Chronic.
Right.
And so after the Chronic, you start to see the conceptualization go higher, right? Biggie. Biggie created a character,
Yeah.
right? Frank White taking from the King of New York movie, uh, the player stuff, the cool clothes. He created a character and then fit himself into that character and created song concepts to make it work. Those albums are great, but they marked the death of the old way of doing it. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I
And
mean,
oh, go ahead.
you listen to, I'm sorry, like you can put Juicy on in pretty much any club, any dance club in America, and people will rap along to that
Yeah.
in 2020 because there was just something about it. And he knew, and you can't tell me that him and Puff Daddy at the time, he's Diddy now. Puff Daddy at the time didn't know what they were doing deliberately.
Sure. I mean, sure. I mean, it was, and the conceptualization. Puffy wanted to make everything bigger,
Yep.
larger. and Biggie could conceptualize enough to make that a movie, you know.
Yeah.
And everybody started saying, "Oh, I wanted my thing to be a movie," because if it's cinematic, you teach your audience how to call you a genius.
Oh.
They don't miss the stuff.
Mm.
And so I think that so these albums kind of reminded me of the old days where you'd get the meaning. By the end of it, you'd have a lot to chew on, but it was all there whenever they wanted it to be there, you know?
Right.
So yeah, go to freemusicempire.com and check that out. Good stuff. My recommendation corner.
Cargo cults.
Yep. So, and this is that art, by the way, is done by the oh the dude who what's the album we love? An Unknown Infinite. You remember An Unknown Infinite?
Infinite.
King Vision Ultra.
Yes.
King Vision Ultra did that artwork. So it is Zilla Rocca and doing the production, Alaska rapping. These are two people from the Call Out Culture, part of the Wrecking Crew, and Alaska's wild, man. He was on the original Def Jux label back when LP and Aesop Rock were there. I got to interview him about this album and about his career. That's going to be coming up. But Alaska is that dude now. He's an elder statesman, and he doesn't give a fuck. He's that like I was thinking about it today. Alaska, these songs are crazy. The album's going to be nuts. Alaska is kind of you remember the old sitcom idea where like me and you are part of a group of friends and we've got a secret. Nobody can tell Janine. Nobody tell Janine, okay? We're gonna act cool. We're gonna act cool. And then like another friend that we didn't bring in on it comes from the other room, eating a bowl of cereal, looks Janine in the face, tells her the secret.
Right.
Audience goes nuts. Alaska's that guy. He doesn't give a fuck at all. And these songs are awesome. And his subject matter can go all over the place. He's very funny. He's very beautifully pessimistic and underground to the core. That album's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Cargo Cults Nihilist Millennial is what it's called.
Wow.
So they're having, and of course, there's lots of other stuff coming. 21 Savage and Metro Boomin are dropping tomorrow. This is Thursday. By the time you see this, it'll be out. And more West Side Gun. There's another West Side Gun. Yeah.
Was he dropping an album or mixtape?
Yeah, and this has Slick Rick on it, I believe.
Wow. Tomorrow? That's coming out Friday the 2nd? Okay. Wow. Very good.
So it's gonna be a haul. I'm interested. We'll hit the heavy hitters next week. I just wanted to dig in on some weird, interesting stuff. I hope you enjoyed your trip through the South Bronx, man.
Yeah, man.
Did you see this music as being very tangibly Latinx, and did you think about the differences between like Latinx hip hop and regular hip hop? Because it's like a big, I feel like under celebrated part of hip hop.
You know, for Latin rappers, I noticed it was more in the lyrics and the rappers themselves than the music. For Latin rap, they have a certain sense of humor and views and way of viewing the world that's very particular to that community. So I didn't really notice it in the production. I didn't really notice any Latin influences in the production per se, but definitely in the content and the way they're rapping and just their world views in general.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, no, everybody should value and cherish uh, the contributions of Latinx rap, especially when we're talking about, Puerto Rican people in New York, Cuban
Yeah.
people in Florida, like specific groups of people have been incredibly,
Regions,
incredibly
right?
valuable
Yeah.
historically, and um, it's not weird to call that out. It's not weird that I'm white and talking about that, right? I'm supposed to be giving that props rather than just talking about like Young Nudie. You know what I mean?
So there's a rapper named Young Nudie.
Yes. And he looks like Zach from Saved by the Bell. It's fun. It's fine. Okay. He's funny. But like, you know, and like, we talked about Jack Harlow last week.
Yeah.
I really kind of don't care. Like, I'm not gonna. No one's on the outs, right? So there are white underground fans who hate white rappers, and they have all kinds of things going on. Um, I got no hate in my heart for anybody, man. I want to hear all of the music.
Yeah.
So I love it. Um, you know, shout out to Rich Brian who's got an album. There's lots of different groups contributing, and we need to think about it and appreciate it. But
Absolutely.
that's my soapbox. Good deal. Good deal. Sweet nighttime to you, Doc Rivers, Scott O'Neill.